Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Lucho Fuentes from Herndon and hat trick Joe Margita from McLean. These two guys have had tremendous years for their teams in Northern Virginia soccer, and their teams are meeting for a huge rematch in the regional final. Both teams are qualified for state, but they're going to come and kind of preview the game and kind of tell us about their soccer journeys. Guys, thanks for doing this. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, sure. Well, let me introduce you guys briefly. Both of you guys are juniors. As I said before, Luis Lucho is at Herndon. He's going to James Madison next year. He's a midfielder. Joe is also a junior. Is going to Villanova. He's at McLean right now. I understand, Lucho, this might be your last year playing. You might go to James Madison early next year.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, I know Jeff. What's little Jeffrey from Alexandria? They like guys coming in the spring semester and getting some touches in. But anyway, I know that Lucho plays for VDA. And Joe, you're Union ECNL, right?
Arlington. I'm on Arlington.
Okay, you're on. Okay,
yeah.
Right. So you've been playing club there. Have you always been at Arlington, Joe?
Since about U14, yeah.
Okay. And Lucho, you've always been at VDA or for a long time?
Since U16.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Where were you before that?
I was at Herndon.
Okay.
Herndon U Soccer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, guys, first of all, this Herndon-McLean rivalry, where did it start? So, as Joe knows, my son played. He was 22 at Yorktown, so he played against Joe. Joe helped put him out. Huge upset in the regionals. But you know, the McLean, the Herndon rivalry and McLean rivalry wasn't big. It was McLean Langley. It was McLean Yorktown. But you know, was this rivalry started? Is this some of it Gage? Because I know Gage talks a lot of trash. He was a striker that played for McLean last year. Now he's at West Point. But what is the origin of the rivalry? And do you guys hear about it at school? Do kids stop you in the halls and say, "Hey, are you guys going to beat Herndon? Are you guys going to beat McLean?" Who wants to go first?
You got it, Joe.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah. So I think so my freshman year, we beat Herndon twice during the year. Both, I think, 1-0 wins, one in district, one in a normal season. And I think the rivalry actually started last year when we were going into the game undefeated, I think 8 or 9-0, and then they were our first loss. And I remember on Instagram that night they posted like, just beat undefeated McLean, like 1-3-2, something like that. And I remember we just dreaded it because they were such a good team, and I knew we were gonna meet them again at some point. And then losing to them in the district final also kind of just made it that much worse. And then in terms of kids at school, like I heard a lot of kids yesterday before the Westfield game telling us, "You guys better win so we can come to Herndon with like smoke grenades and stuff." Like they wanted us to play Herndon again, really bad. People love watching the game. So, yeah, that's, I think, where it all started for us.
I think everyone wants to see the Herndon McLean rematch. How about you, Lucho? When did the McLean thing get on your radar? When did you guys first start thinking about McLean and we want to beat McLean?
Yeah, like Joe said, my freshman year, his freshman year, they beat us twice, and the game, they knocked us out first round of districts, so they ended our senior season. Like all my boys that were seniors, like that wasn't a good memory.
Yeah.
And last year when we met them, like that was definitely in the back of a lot of our players' heads, because I think Brendan, Nikki, me, we were all on that team, and we saw what it meant to the seniors. It was definitely a big matchup, and obviously we knew they were undefeated. And we just did what we had to do. And yeah, there was definitely a lot of trash talk over social media, especially after Gage got on your pod. So, yeah.
Gage knows how to stir the pot a little bit. Well, we'll get back to that rivalry and the games to come, and also last year's game. Let's talk a little bit about high school soccer. Now, you guys, Lucho was just named Player of the Year in the Northern Region. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sure. Joe's just, as I mentioned, signed Division I, has had a tremendous year. What is it meant to you to play high school soccer? I'm sure some people tell you guys should not play. It's too physical, you know. But what does it mean to play for your high school? And does it make you a better player to play for your high school?
Lucho, you got this one first.
All right. Yeah, definitely some coaches, especially I know Joe, you guys called for nationals, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know coaches definitely want you to focus more, keep the like unity of your team, of your club team, and sometimes high school distracts some players. Um, but I think it depends sometimes on the club coach and how they work into it, how they work in some club practices, being smart, managing the players. And what it means to play is just it's fun. You're playing with your boys. You
Yeah,
go out, you have friends come out. It's just fun. You want to represent your school well.
yeah. Well, and Lucho, as a freshman, and that your team did not do well your freshman year, but that was a talented team. Because my son was this, you
Yeah,
know, he was a senior at Yorktown that year, and even though we beat you guys, I remember thinking, God, these guys, this is a talented team. You had some really fast wingers. Volpe, I forgot the guy's
yeah.
name. Yeah,
Max, he was super good. Yeah,
that was a good team, and we beat you guys. But I kept thinking, man, these guys were so good. But
yeah,
it must have been good for your development to play with those older players as a freshman.
yeah. Definitely, it helped me a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Joe, what about you? You know, I know that Arlington and any high level travel program is going to put pressure on their players not to play high school. But
yeah.
what has it meant to you to play for McLean, and how has it made you a better player?
Yeah, so I think Lucho said it pretty perfectly. I mean, coaches have told you not to play and stuff like that, but I think high school, the one thing that it does do is build character.
Yeah,
And I think especially in the leadership sense and going into college ball, it's really important in my opinion. So although it may not make you better as a player technically or whatever, like it builds some pretty important qualities. And at the end of the day, I'd compare it to playing for a national team. Just representing your school, you got people coming out so passionate about it, and it's just amazing. I mean, there's no other feeling like it because you don't get that in club games.
Yeah. So I
yeah.
talked to. Oh, did you want to say something, Lucho?
No, no, no. I completely agree.
Yeah. So I talked to Cooper Noseworthy last year. You guys probably know Cooper. He goes
Yeah.
to JMU. He went to Osborne. He was player of the year last year. He told me there was a pressure of high school soccer that's not quite duplicated with his club. He said it's different. He said the goals that you score mean a little bit more. So he said even though the club was higher level, that high school the goals meant something different, and it was actually good for him to have to score in those clutch situations. Do you think that Cooper has a point?
Yeah,
I honestly, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that first goal versus Herndon was probably the one from this year in the district final. That's felt better than almost any other club goal I've had. Obviously, I mean
yeah,
that feeling lasted for about 5 minutes, but yeah,
literally,
no,
literally 5 minutes.
yeah, but yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And the nerves you feel going into a high school game like that Westfield game are completely different from any club game, except maybe like national playoffs or something. But even then, it's great to be in those situations.
Yeah.
yeah,
Good, Lucio. You agree with that?
yeah. It's obviously it's different with more fans because clubs it's mostly just your parents, and especially the older you get, it's more of your teammates driving the games. So it's definitely fun hearing the crowd, your bench. Like it's a different feeling for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, do you play any differently? Like I know a lot of times, you know, when you play for your high school, you may take direct kicks, and your club team, you know, you might have someone else take direct kicks. But the style of play might be a little bit, um, more attractive in the club level than you could do in high school. Do you find yourself playing differently in high school than you do in club?
Joe,
Lucho,
you
you
got
got
it first.
Oh, all right, I got it.
You got it.
Yeah, honestly, I was talking to our center back Titus about this literally earlier today. I feel like I play very differently, and I think high school being a different game, at least for a forward. I mean, club, and honestly, in club, like there are some great defenders in high school, but club the defenses are much more organized. I mean, the chemistry's there, so you have to be a lot smarter with your runs. You have to be smarter with the ball. You can't be taking these long runs. And in high school, I feel like the smarter runs never work. I feel like it's either chemistry with your teammates, it's just not there, or the defenders are kind of staggered in a way where you just can't get through, or I don't know what it is, but I found it a lot harder to do some certain like runs behind, and I feel like a lot of people take longer runs in high school, keeping the ball and running off each other rather than making like a long through ball or a smart run. And that's my play style in club, and it's just very different in high school. And I think it's just how different the games are. I mean, it's a completely different game, at
Some
least
of
for
that
the
may, some of that may also be that the fields are sometimes more narrow in high
yeah,
school, so it's
yeah.
harder.
But then when you play at Yorktown and
Yeah,
you have all the space in the world.
it's amazing. How
Yeah.
about Luke?
Yeah.
How about you, Lucho? Do you play much differently in club than you play in high school?
Yeah, and I would say it's more. I know Arlington, they love to keep the ball, and
Yeah.
BDA with my team, like same thing. And I think it's you literally can't play the same. You're not receiving the same ball. You're not, like you said, with your teammates. It's not the same type of chemistry. So you kind of have to figure out a different way to play to manage the kind of pick up on those like second goals, like the scrappy goals. It's more of that, I'd say,
Yeah,
and that could be more fun sometimes. Sometimes it's not so fun, but gotta do
yeah.
what you
With
gotta do.
Herndon and actually McLean also, you guys are both very good at set pieces. And you guys won a game incredibly against, I guess it was Langley, but also Enzo's long throws. You guys put some scrappy goals on the back of the net. So,
Yeah.
guys, what about your important heroes or role models? Who are some of the guys that you learned from, watched on YouTube or watched on Saturday mornings that you emulate? I know Lucho. I don't know if you ever remember this guy, but there was a guy who played for Lyon named Lucho Gonzalez. You may not have ever heard of him, but he was a great midfielder. When my son first started playing soccer, I didn't know anything about soccer, and I started watching, whatever I could. And there was a midfielder, and he was great. He played for Lyon, and he was much taller than you, but he played a lot like you. But anyway, where'd you guys? Who are your role models and influences, and the players you are today? Lucho, why don't
Yeah.
you go first since I called you out?
All right. Role models, I'd say probably my dad, my parents.
Oh,
Just like the mental side of the game, just being strong mentally. As well as my coaches, my club coach, Coach Alvin. He's really shaped me as a young man, I'd say, and my past coaches. Um, and then players I look up to, like recently, it's like the Chuamenis, the Camavingas, like they're really fun to watch.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'll probably watch clips of them like before games just to get some ideas of what to do. But yeah, I'd say that mainly for my role models and players I look up to today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you,
Same.
Joe? Who's influenced your game?
Yeah, again, I think my parents have been a big part of it, of my entire life, obviously. So they've really helped me. My dad played Division III college soccer at a Coast Guard academy.
Oh, he did.
As
Oh,
he
wow.
served, and he always was talking about how he didn't have the club opportunities and stuff that we have now. He grew up playing rec and walked on the Coast Guard team, like because that's how it was back then. And he's been really inspirational and I mean everything soccer to me.
Hmm.
And I agree with my mom as well. She played also at the Coast Guard Academy. It was a club sport at the time, but they've both been really inspirational to me. I think coaches definitely as well. My old coach at Premier AC before Arlington, I train with him still to this day, and he's really improved me technically, and he's a great guy. Shaped me as a young man as well.
Who's
Same with
that?
all
Who's that coach, Joe, at Premier AC?
Sully, Coach
Hmm.
Sully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all my Arlington coaches as well. Like I just had a bunch of really good coaches. Then in terms of players, I'd say while I might not play as much like them, I've always really enjoyed watching Ibrahimovic. Looking at his kind of almost arrogant like posts and stuff like that. I just loved it. And then in terms of highlights, Luis Suarez has been my favorite to watch. His prime when he was in Liverpool and early Barcelona days. I loved watching him.
Yeah. Joe, you're such a nice guy, and your heroes are Suarez and Ibrahimovic, guys who always picking with their opponents.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. I never said I played like him, but watching him is too fun.
exactly. Well, look, I believe both you guys play NCS, ECNL.
Yeah.
And you know, when my son first started playing soccer, he's a couple years older than you guys. He was NCSL, and then CCL came out, and then back then they had the DAs came out, and then it was MLS Next, and then ECNL came out. When you look at the all the different paths a player can take, um, do you think we do it the right way? Are we for kids to get to where you guys are, high level players, Division I, recruits, high club level players. Is it too complicated for players to get to make the right development choices these days?
Honestly, I don't, I think there are some aspects that we do somewhat right, and then there are aspects that we don't do right. So honestly, like the showcases and all this stuff for different leagues, I think it's good. I think we have good that we have showcases and stuff like that. But I look at the different leagues and the labels that are put on each league. And there could be a kid just as good as an MLS Next player in ECNL, and a coach could think worse about them because they play in ECNL. Or I've had friends who have gotten an offer from a college after 2 or 3 games at the MLS Next level, and then someone at the ECNL level, coaches say they need to see him 5 or 6 times because they might not be playing like as good competition. So I think in that sense, it's just not as good as European soccer, and I just think that's how America is in terms of the money and pay to play and how it is. But I think there are some aspects we're doing right, and a lot of the showcases, getting colleges out, and influencing that help. But in terms of the different league tiers, I think it is too complicated. I think DA was good because and they had really big showcases and events. But even that was like still the label on it is just different because kids in these other small leagues could be just as good as another player, and they're just not getting the same recognition.
Yeah. Joe, you bring up a very good point. If everyone was in the same league, like, even before my son played in the early 2000s, it was all NCSL, and it was the 9 different divisions, and it was relegation and promotion.
Yeah.
So the good players get, good players and teams get promoted. The poor teams will go down. And in Europe, it's the same way. And the best teams and players are playing their way to the top, and then other teams come poach the best players. So the system moves the best players to the right areas. Whereas here, you have to pick and choose. Yet you're making these choices that have nothing to do with how you play, which is extremely frustrating. How about you, Lucho? Do you think we got this right? Are we doing it right in developing our players?
I completely agree with Joe. I think the labels of leagues that they put on players, like they put a certain like stigma around some players, and it's most of the time unfair. Um, but also I'm just happy like the sport as a whole and like the US is growing, and there's way more opportunities for kids to be seen and like chances to fall in love with the game. And that's like I'm happy to see that the more it grows, like the more we'll be competitive on that higher level,
Yeah.
especially with the World Cup coming here for 26. Super exciting. But what Joe said, like there is just a lot of little things that definitely could be fixed, and maybe we could mirror some things done in Europe or South America.
Lucho, does it get you more determined when you play against MLS next team? Like you have something to prove just because there's that label? Does that make you more
Yeah,
determined?
I would think so. Yeah, like even if you don't want to think about it, it's always in the back of your head when you're playing them. So
Yeah. How about you, Joe? Do you
yeah,
feel the same way when you play against Alexandria? It
Yeah,
makes you play a little
for
bit
sure.
harder.
Yeah, it does, just because it almost makes me mad. People think teams are better than other teams just because of their label put on them. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've noticed is that the players that are Division 1 from the area, just as many of them come from ECNL as come from MLS Next. It doesn't seem to be that big a difference now in terms of opportunities to go to the next level.
yeah.
Guys, you've learned so much about the game. So Chandler, I didn't realize this, but played against both of you guys. I played against Lucho as well his freshman year. But his soccer came to an end when he went to college. And when you walk around UVA, there's so many players that he walks around that are great players and not playing in college. Like Luca Rufi, guys, Nathan Young, Tyler Peduzzi. I mean, Nate Woods. There's so many great players from South Lakes. I can't think of the guys' names you would know, but they don't play anymore. But Chandler's gotten into coaching, doing one-on-one training and stuff. Do you guys, after your playing days are over, do you guys see yourself as being coaches one day, coaching club, or maybe even coaching high school?
Lucha.
Um, yeah, I'd probably think so, just because I'd want to be around the game and I enjoy it a lot, and like the lifestyle I see my coaches living, like definitely wouldn't mind it after playing days. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely something I would look to do.
Who's your coach at Herndon?
Um,
Oh, you're talking about
right
your club
now,
coach.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned his name before, Lucho. What's his name? Your club coach?
Coach Elvin Arbeza. Yeah.
Okay. And then your high school coach, what's his name? I met him. He's a nice guy.
Coach Jordan.
Coach Jordan. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Joe? You think one day you'll be a coach?
Yeah, honestly, through talking to college coaches and other club coaches and stuff, they seem to really be passionate about it. And
Yeah.
I completely see it the same way. Like I can't imagine living without soccer. I mean, you can ask my parents. Like so soccer is pretty much the only thing I talk about.
Yeah.
They get pretty annoyed at this sometimes, but yeah, I can't imagine living without the game. So if at any point I couldn't play anymore, then I would love to be a coach, and I can
Yeah.
see myself pursuing that.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about last year. So Herndon was coming off a very, kind of a poor record in 2022. And then last year, out of nowhere, you guys were a team to beat very early in the season. Everybody was like, what is going on? And two kind of surfaced, and you guys had those two big center backs, Brendan Steiger, and I forgot the other guy's name, but just a quality team. And obviously Lucho in the midfield, and many other great players. Um, and then Joe, his freshman year, you guys had the big upset of us, and you guys went deep into the state tournament. And then, and then last year, because of Gage, a lot of it's because of Gage's mouth. You guys were the favorites. Everyone was talking about you guys all year. So you got this big spotlight on you guys. So all of a sudden, you guys' teams were in the spotlight last year out of I don't want to say nowhere, but it was kind of a surprise. So talk about your seasons last year, and it's kind of like your first, full seasons as huge parts of those of the lineups.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I think last year was definitely a lot of the talking and making social media posts and stuff after the game was our downfall pretty much. I mean, it just made teams hate us, come out like it was bad. It was bad. But I think my freshman year I thought I was a pretty big part of the lineup, at least in the second half of the season, and that really gave me a lot of confidence.
Mhm.
Because the first half of the season I didn't get any playing time. I was on the bench because I was a freshman, obviously. Then Gage left, and that's actually why I started getting time.
Okay.
And I think that really built up confidence in me and some of the other teammates like Calf and other people who are around me. And I think that helps us kind of today having the experience that we do. And I'm sure it's the same with Lucho, but having that experience and confidence from going far one year really helps carry on to the next. And like you've been in these situations like regional semifinals, and you just know how to handle it and manage a game a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had the feeling against Westfield the other day. The fact that you guys have been deep in the tournament numerous
Yeah.
times helped you over Westfield. They did not seem to react well in the extra time. It was basically Michael. It was a Michael show, and
Yeah.
then in penalties they just seemed out of it. And you guys were very focused from the get go. That experience in high school is extremely important with all the pressure going on. How about you, Lucho? Last year, were you surprised in your success? It must have been an amazing feeling how well you guys did.
I wouldn't say I was surprised because I knew the team we had. We had a really good team, and we also had a great coach, Coach Nick. Um, and again, we kind of grew up playing all together because we all played for Herndon before like half of us moved to BDA. So it was fun. The chemistry was there. Like Joe was talking about, like usually you don't have that, so we were blessed to have that. And then I think we just enjoyed it. It was more of that. It was fun to step on the field. There wasn't a pressure because nothing came out of my freshman year too much. So we kind of played free, and we didn't play with any weight on our shoulders or worries. You went out to play and you enjoyed it. And we were lucky enough to get some good crowds, and it was always just fun.
How did you get that massive crowd? I remember one game I came out, almost the whole bleachers would seem like it was full on your side. When did that start happening? Just because you guys experienced success?
um, I'd say the Herndon community is very well knit. We're together. We support each other, and we love to see each other go far. I know I think my freshman or sophomore year, the baseball team was super good, and I never really watched baseball. That was the most fun I've had watching a school sport, I guess. It was just fun. And then also like Herndon Youth Soccer, the club, they made sure all their kids got out wearing their Herndon gear. So they helped like pack the stands and bring the atmosphere.
It was
That was
great. It
super
was
fun.
amazing
Yeah.
atmosphere. Also, you guys have a great loudspeaker PA guy. So I like his style a lot. Well,
Yeah.
let's go to the Herndon McLean district final, which ended up being a huge game because after McLean lost, they ended up with a very tough matchup against Centerville that they wouldn't have had if they would have won that game. But one thing that I think it was Joe reminded me, and I had forgotten, was you guys were a man down that game, Lucho. You guys got a red card. I didn't remember that, but obviously I remember. Everyone remembers Atu's goal. It was on a counterattack, and he dinked it over the goal. He took his shirt off, and it was one of them. It was an amazing moment for anybody who was there.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that game. What do you guys memories of that amazing game?
Joe, you got it first.
I mean, I think the immediate memory that comes to mind is just dread. That game is not the best feeling, especially we were so close as well, 2-2, gonna go into golden goal, and then I remember seeing that goal. I remember it in my mind, and I remember the celebration and the huge crowd too, and distinctly that picture you posted. I still see it in the back of my head sometimes, but I don't know, the whole game feels like a blur. So I remember we scored in the first minute and we're going crazy, almost similar to this year.
Yeah.
And I remember I crossed it to Gage and I was just so happy. And then throughout the game, it's just so back and forth and chances for both teams. And I don't know. It just doesn't feel great, but I remember we really pushed that game and that game shaped us a lot. And I think that game, I think that game also provided a lot of experience for this year because after losing the final this year, rather than kind of sulking and grieving about it like last year, we're using it as more motivation. And I think that really helped us, especially versus Westfield and Centerville.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Lucho? What are your memories of that game? And going in, because you guys probably were the favorites going in because you'd won the district. It was a home game,
Yeah.
but everyone, McLean had a very talented team as they do now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we came, obviously, I'd like to say we came ready, but then got scored on the first minute. So I don't know I don't know how that would make sense, but no, we knew they had a great squad, but we trusted in ourselves too. And that's why after going down so early, like it was just put your head down and work for the next 80 plus minutes. And I remember O2 scoring. O2's like, that's like my brother. He comes over to my house every weekend. We're always chilling. And when he scored, that was like happiness. that moment, that was happiness. And I just remember celebrating and going to school after. It was fun. It was a fun game. But like Joe said, I think that definitely built character in our team. Those tough matches, we kind of learned to grind them out, and it's definitely helped us, especially this year, going through that game.
I feel like this year, you guys, no matter what the score is, you always feel like you have a chance, and you guys don't seem to get rattled when you get behind or if it's close.
Yeah.
And I think when you have success in close games, that's what happens. So Joe, you guys ended up losing to Centerville. I was there that day.
Yeah.
You guys had some serious injuries that day. I remember because I remember Calf played center back, and Calf's a great player, but he's not a center back, but he can play it. He's tall and he's a very good player. But I know your six was out. One of your, I believe the kid Jalen was out. I believe
Jalen, one of our best players.
But still, I mean, it's a team you thought you could beat. That must have been a devastating loss. And I know it was. You told me, but tell us about the Centerville game.
Yeah, I mean, another game that I think we came into it still sad thinking about the Herndon game, and that's what killed us. That was our downfall. Centerville came in and they really fought. They wanted to win. I mean, I don't remember I think we scored on them first. Gage scored early, and then we were up 1-0. And then I remember they scored the goal, and instead of us putting our heads down and working, it just got to us. We started thinking about Herndon after going up early, and then getting conceded on, and we just came into the game at halftime, and we were just mentally we weren't built right. I think that's what was our downfall. I think after having so much success early in the season, having those tougher games really hurt us because during that whole season we mercy ruled like 3 teams. We were breezing through until Herndon, and then obviously until the district final. And at that point we were just, instead of using it as motivation, like I said earlier, we were kind of sulking about it, and that just ruined us.
I remember you messaged me this year after the Westfield game. That was, you guys, I believe, tied early. And I was like, well, maybe Joe, this is better because last year it was so easy for you. Maybe this year, the fact that you're in these close games will make you guys, tougher in postseason. And that Centerville team, I saw them against you guys, and I saw them against Langley. Langley beat them on some set pieces because they had Aiden Connolly and they had
Yeah.
Ryan Ronkovich.
Yeah.
They were tough to beat. But that Centerville team was quality last year. I mean, I know they were solid this year, but they weren't tall, they weren't fast, but they had so many really quality players. I was actually really impressed by that team. I had no idea they were that good. So Lucho, you won the region last year, and then you got all the way, I believe, to the state semis, and you lost in penalties. Who did you guys lose to? And tell us a little bit about that game.
I think we got knocked quarters of
Quarters.
states.
Yeah.
Yeah, we obviously win in region, that was big. And then quarters we faced Lewis, and there's just no excuses. We didn't come with the right mindset, and we pushed the game all the way to penalties, and penalties always roll of the dice. So, it was unlucky. It definitely hurt, but I feel like the team kind of moved on, and it gave us a goal for this season. And we were lucky that we only had one senior last year, so it's the same squad with some more like really talented kids, and that probably definitely set up a good goal for the season. It left us something to chase.
Did you know the Lewis kids, Louis? You probably know those kids from around.
Yeah, I knew a couple of them just playing them through like club. Yeah.
I went to the Lewis Annandale game. 6-4. That game was nuts. It was an incredible
Yeah, I
game.
saw.
Yeah, and then the crowds were great. I mean, it was an unbelievable environment. Lewis has about 14, 15, I'd say Division III players plus. They got a couple guys I knew. The one kid signed with American. I'm sure yeah. But they have so many players. I mean, Lewis is definitely the same league as you guys' team, so it's going to be, but they have a tough game against Alexander City. Alexander City is also very strong. Well, so you guys, so McLean got bounced by Centerville, and then at least you guys lost to Lewis. So this year going in, was there ever any doubt that you guys were going to play high school going into this year? Were you guys 100% going to play, or were you guys back in your mind, maybe we're not, maybe I'll focus on my club this year?
I'll go first. I think at first there was after the last high school season, because after that loss for Centerville, I was kind of like, well, what's the point of this? I mean, like, it was just a hard time. Like, it was a bad time. And then going to nationals after that and having a great time, like we went into the round of 16 before we lost. Like, it just reminded me how good club felt. And so honestly, at first, I think I said that I was thinking about not playing high school, but in reality, there was no way I wasn't going to play. Especially seeing my friends like at tryouts and that first Green Day back, it's just a different feeling. I mean, you can't replicate it. And I remember being worried about recruiting maybe because the spring of your junior year is a pretty big time. It's where a lot of kids commit. So when recruiting started well for me in the fall, I kind of knew like, well, if it's going well now, like surely throughout the spring I'll carry it out. And eventually when I committed, my mind was kind of clear. I remember the first 2 or 3 weeks of high school, I was kind of stressed about recruiting, and I really just wasn't having as much fun as I should have been. So once I kind of committed and signed for Villanova, all the stress went away, and I'm just having fun now. So
yeah, I'm glad you played, Joe. How about you, Luis? Was there any doubt? I'm sure because you have so many teammates and friends that are on the team. I bet you it was probably easier for you to play one more year.
Yeah, but exactly what Joe said. It was very 50-50 at the start. I really wasn't sure. And then because of teammates like Brendan, I know it was his last year. And then when I kind of figured out that I would be going to JMU early, then it kind of like, I was like, this is my last chance to play. Like, I'm not going to have this next year. So yeah, just trying to enjoy it this year.
Yeah. Looking back, are you glad you played, Lucho?
Yeah, definitely.
How about you, Joe? Are you glad you decided to play?
Of course. I mean, if I said I wasn't going to play, that was a lie. So you can't step away. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well, I think it takes patience because, the high school season starts off kind of slow. It takes a long time to build chemistry. The games are meaningless at first. You got these, non-district games. You're just trying to, build the chemistry, find out where all the pieces fit. it doesn't really get good until the districts, and then all of a sudden the games, become a little bit intense, more familiar opponents. What were the expectations coming in? Did you guys, the only expectation was to get back to the regional tournament and this time win the region, this time go deep in the state? I mean, was the expectations through the roof from the very beginning?
You got this one, Lucho.
Yeah, Lucho, go
Um,
first. Yeah,
I'd say the expectations were definitely higher this year, just because we came off a successful year. But our mentality, I think, with our coach now, he's definitely helped us take it one game at a time and almost enjoy those more boring games and use them, because by the time we do get to states, and those boring games, they'll definitely matter. They'll little moments in those games they'll show what you've been doing all year at practice and during games.
absolutely. How about you, Joe? Did you I remember we chatted earlier
Yeah.
this year after the Washington Liberty game, and that was a bloodbath. I mean, the tackles in that game were ridiculous. It was such a
Yeah.
physical game. I remember you said to me something like that. My dad says, I'm not even sure I should be out there. And I know you probably went through moments like, what am I doing? Do you have those moments where you're impatient, you want to, get to the more important games?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Did you have a time when you just wanted to, get to the postseason, get to the big games? Because, there were some times when high school can be a little rough around the edges sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely have thought that before. I think a lot of players have. But I feel like again, like I said earlier, these games, these gritty games, like they build character. And even though there's chances to get hurt, like it's just not, the club games aren't normally like that. And then when you do come up in a club game versus a team that's big, physical, like those high school games really do help.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I think we all wish we could go straight to playoffs, but like Lucho said, those little games do matter, especially when you get further and further in the season.
Yeah. So, well, Lucho, I wanted to ask you about Coach Nick stepping down. I interviewed him last year. Great guy.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed talking to him. That must have been devastating to you guys when he left. And how I'm sorry, I'm freezing on the new coach's name. But what's been the difference this year in the new coaching, the new head coach?
With Coach Nick, he kind of let some of the boys know that this was like a 1 year thing, just because
Hmm.
I think he was having a daughter, like he was expecting a daughter, so he knew he
Oh,
wanted to spend more time with her, and that's gotta respect that, obviously.
yeah.
And yeah, it was great having him, and he definitely built a certain mentality around the program. And I think the players this year have kind of carried that over. And obviously, we love our new coach, but also it's a thing within the players. We're here to play, we're here to perform. So, and this new coach has helped definitely mold that and keep it focused. So
Yeah.
that's all I can say about this year. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done a great job. Well, Joe, you guys had a coach a few years ago, but you made this incredible run to the state semis and almost got to the final.
Yep.
Out of nowhere, beat Yorktown. And then last year, Coach Jameson, that coach quits. McLean, Langley, Yorktown, those are tough places to coach. You got some high-powered parents there, and it's not always easy to coach at those kind of schools. And then you got Coach Jameson. What's been the difference with him in the last 2 years since he's taken control of the team?
Yeah, so I think my freshman year, our coach, he was a great guy. But to be honest, he was an FCPS teacher. I mean, he loved the sport. I think Lucha knows what I mean. I think Coach Leland Jameson, he definitely, yeah, Coach Jameson, he knows a lot more tactically about the game, and I think that's just through playing overseas and being from Japan. He played all his life, and he coached at Nova Community College. And he's interviewing for other colleges. Like he knows what he's doing tactically, which really helped us. I think that freshman year run, while I do attribute a lot of credit to Coach Gaiton, is what his name was. I think Will Mahoney, and I think he definitely took control of the team a lot more than he did in the normal season. And that's what really led us that far. But this year, yeah, Coach Jameson, the past 2 years has been great. He's been learning the high school game, which obviously it's not easy. It's a completely different game, but he's been a lot better tactically, is what I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed the changes in your lineup yesterday, and it's interesting, Joe, because if I would have said a month ago when I watch you guys play, I saw a lot of space out there, and your organization the last month has been so much better. Defensively, you guys are a very good team now. So
Yeah.
that's what high school is all about. It's all about, you have like it's a compressed season. You have like what, 6 to 8 weeks to get these kinks worked out and get ready for postseason. And that's exactly what you guys have done. Well, let's get to the districts went really smooth for Herndon. It's funny about Herndon in that you guys had a lot of close games and games where you were actually behind or tied late, and you won all of them. And it was interesting because you didn't dominate a lot of teams, and you have a dominant team in terms of talent, but you just find a way to win. Lucho, did I got that right? It wasn't like the games were easy. You just did enough to win most of these games.
Yeah, a bunch of these games too, like our players, we have one player missing, one like Langley, I wasn't able to play just because I had club responsibilities.
Mm.
And it's been like that with certain players, like Brendan missing a game against Yorktown. Yeah, Yorktown,
Yeah.
I believe it was. But yeah, our team, I couldn't even tell you. It just happens. And I'd say we definitely want the games to be more convincing. But like you said, I think those close games definitely they'll help postseason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how about, and Joe, this year we talked about this earlier. The games had not been as easy for you guys, and you went through a lull in the midseason where the results weren't great, and then it's funny in the postseason you guys have played much better, even though the Marshall game was closer than you probably
Yeah.
would have chosen. But it seems like your team has grown during the year.
Yeah, no, yeah, it for sure has. I think that Marshall game was a result of underestimating our opponent, which that happened a lot last year. That was the same with Centerville last year. And I think after that close Marshall game, it kind of shell shocked all of us. Like we've learned that mistake. So I think that's definitely changed. And then yeah, just across the year, I mean, the lull in the midseason really we're working out stuff, figuring out lineups. And I think at this point we really got it down. Um, but yeah, that's I one thing I'm gonna say that I do respect about Herndon is they play for the result, and at the end of the day, that's all it's about. And I really do respect that. That makes them hard to play against.
That's fun about high school. It's not about development. It's only about the results. Whereas
Yeah,
club, you're trying to develop, you're trying to get better, you're trying to get scholarships. But high school is only about the results. So that's that's kind of the beauty of it. Well, let's go to the game this week. Now it was a strange night because we had weather issues, and from
Yeah.
what I understand, in the Herndon game, you guys were dominating the game before the weather break, and it was 2-0. But from what I heard, it could have been 5-0. After the break, Madison, and they've got a great midfield. They got some good players in the midfield. They made it a game, and they lost 2-1. So there was, I talked to someone who said there were some scary moments in the game that could have been close. And then in the Westfield-McLean game was the exact opposite.
yeah,
Westfield seemed to dominate early. They led 1-0. And then after the weather break, McLean got a goal, and they dominated the second half without scoring, but they seemed to, be in control of things. So let's talk a little bit about the last round. I guess that's the semifinals, which is huge. It's the knockout. It's a knockout round.
Yeah.
Lucho, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about the Madison game.
Against Madison, I say that was definitely like the best start of our season, just because, like Joe said, we kind of established a lineup, and we trusted each other. And that we started flying, like the passes were clicking, we were winning the first balls, the second balls, and then yeah, we're up 2-0, and I missed a couple chances. Like you said, it could have been five, but the weather break came. I didn't play the second half, but literally Madison, we played the rest of the 2 minutes, and they scored. I think like a minute after we got back from the break, and then we had a 2 minute halftime, and then there was those corners. It was scary moments for sure. I was on the edge of my seat, but
Lucho,
our,
why didn't you play why didn't you play the second half?
I kind of had like a bug,
Okay,
so there was
that's
like yeah, and then I was about ready to put my stuff back on. I was like, shoot, no, I wasn't expecting it, But Madison definitely, they came ready to play after the break, and thankfully we have a strong back line, and they did what they had to do. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Joe, what about you? I was at the Westfield game, and you know, I never thought you guys were in danger in the second half. But then, as Lucho said earlier, when you're in penalties, it's a roll of the dice. So, how would you characterize the Westfield game?
Yeah, so I think definitely coming into the game we felt ready, but I think we started slow. You know that Olympico corner goal really caught us off, and we were saying like, I mean, there's just not much you can do about that. Just posting in, there's just not much you can do really. So I think that kind of had us iffy. You know, I mean, we were kind of hyped up to keep going, but we start down 1-0. It's not a great feeling. So I think they were honestly dominating too. We thought our formation wasn't working. I mean, we couldn't press because they were breaking our lines too easily. So I remember going into the lightning delay, and just we go into the locker room and we're saying like this is not working. Like we didn't have enough energy, so we switched some things around, and I won't say what those things are, but we definitely changed up a bit and it worked. And I think the biggest thing we did to change up was our energy. And coming out, Dante helped us a lot with his yelling and passion, and that really changed the game in my opinion. Even though we didn't score, I felt we were in control a lot of the game. Just even like I don't know how to describe it, just emotionally. And that's how we really dominated them. And I think that's what led to us coming in strong penalties. Because like you said, we were just more focused, and we knew we were going to score our penalties. We were confident. Like I remember talking to their center back, and this kid he was like, oh, if we go into penalties, like I, I played 100 minutes last game. Like I don't want to go into penalties again. And that was the kid who missed our second penalty actually.
Yeah, he
And
missed
I
it.
remember thinking, I was like, he's gonna miss. Like they're not locked in. And I think we're constantly attacking in the second half, and I think that really demoralized them, especially after their WNL game. Playing 100 minutes twice in a week is twice within 3 days is not very easy. And I think that helped. I had done a little bit of research on their goalie, and I saw in the WNL game every penalty he dives to one of the sides. And so I told my teammates, when in doubt, kick it down the middle. And that's what me, Ada, and I think, or yeah, me and Ada did that, and that's just how it went. Sebi made a great save too. Our goalie, he had a great game.
So going into the penalties, I was telling Chandler that I had just been to the Robinson Lake Braddock game the night before. Tremendous game. Robinson has a great team. They've got so many quality players all over the pitch. I went to Robinson, so that game really hurt me. But when they went to penalties, Lake Braddock's goalkeeper 6'5", 6'6". He's going to Mary Washington next year. Help me with the name, guys. I forgot his name.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
yeah, me neither.
I just forgot his name. He's a great. I'm sorry if he's listening, but he's a great goalie. And then Robinson's got a great goalie, but he's probably 5'8", 5'9". So I'm thinking to myself the night before, I'm like, you don't want to go to penalties with you got a really tall goalie against a really small goalie. It's just that intimidating factor that you have in penalties. So the same thing occurred to me. I said, Chandler, Westfield's got the tall goalie. McLean has a short goalie. Westfield has the advantage in the penalties. But it was weird because by the first penalty, Sebi was dialed in and he was all over that. And
Yep.
their goalie wasn't even close. Maybe, Joe, you're right. Maybe your strategy was good, but he did touch one. He touched one of the balls, I think.
Caps. Yeah.
Yeah, he did touch it, but it was over. So, but anyway, look, it was a great moment. You guys went and celebrated in front of the Westfield crowd. I wouldn't do that at Herndon. You got some
And
tough kids up in the Herndon crowd.
we had to walk out with security after Westfield, so it wasn't a great idea. But they were chanting a few of our girlfriends' names, and it was
Oh,
it felt good. Just say that.
okay. I was wondering. I was like, because it's some places, woo, there's some
It's
places you just can't do that. But
yeah.
that it was interesting. I don't know, Lucho, did you see that they went in front of Westfield's crowd to celebrate?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over too well in Herndon, would it?
We'll be a little
But
smarter.
yeah,
So okay, look, let's I want to talk a little bit about the matchup. And again, I don't want you guys to reveal anything confidential, obviously, and even though it's so early, I'm sure you guys your preparation is just beginning. But when you look back on the two games this year, the first game, it was a great game. I was there. Herndon goes a man down. And I felt like Lucho, when you went a man down, you became more determined that game. I felt like you were all over the pitch. I was watching your work rate. I bet you if you had a odometer on, you must have run 10 miles that day. You were all over the pitch. That was a tremendous win. I mean, I left that game thinking, man, that Herndon team was unbelievable the way they handled being a man down. And then in the district tournament, a very good game, as Joe said. They scored early. There was, I guess, it was 4 or 5 goals in the first 10, 15 minutes, and then the game settled down. And then Jello scored a very opportunistic goal at the end. Another great moment. But anyone who saw those 2 games, like I saw them, knows what a tough matchup it is. I mean, you guys are a great matchup. Herndon has had the upper hand the last couple of years. And again, I don't want you guys to make any bold predictions or tell us anything confidential. But what did you guys learn from the Herndon-McLean matchups from this year?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing was set pieces for us, because I remember the first game, 2 of the goals were off set pieces, and that really put us into overdrive at practice. We've been practicing free kicks, long throws, like we've been doing a lot to kind of prevent that. And I think we showed well, especially in that second half of the district final. Every single set piece was out by their Titus, Dante, Calf. Like I thought we really prevailed well. And that's even helped us in other games like Westfield with Michael putting in some of those crosses. And that's definitely a key thing we've learned and practiced after that first matchup.
Yeah, I think Titus and obviously Dante, very underrated and really have had a great, especially the last month or so in the season, have really been a huge difference for you guys. How about you, Lucho? Did I get that right? You were even more determined when you're a man down to win that game, and what are the lessons learned by you from those 2 games?
Yeah, I knew we needed that win because we started the season, I'd say, a lot slower this year than we did last year. And we looked at the matchup with Circle. We were excited for the game, and like we got lucky. We got an early goal, but we know with McLean they're always going to find one back. So we knew it was going to be a tough game, and I knew mentally I just had to be focused and just put everything out there. And in the final, dude, I literally told him don't give Joe like a shot, and then his first shot, like it's in, and I was like, bruh. But it happens, and we had to deal with it. And I think we responded really well, and we were fortunate to get 2 good results, and I think they both meant a lot to our team.
Yeah. So, well, guys, I don't want to talk anymore about the game. I want you guys just to play it. I don't want to put you guys on, on the line here. But when you look around and your friends are eliminated from postseason, I know Lucho, your good friend Christian Rodriguez, a guy that I love to watch plays out, and Joe, I know you look around and your teammates at Yorktown, your teammates at Washington Liberty, everyone's down. Do you guys hear from your club teammates now that you guys are still alive? Does some of this elevate you guys on a platform? The fact that your high school team is still alive this late?
Lucho, you wanna?
I don't think they care. We go to training and we go to work. We know once the drills start, high school talk's kind of out the window.
Is that right?
With most of my teammates being seniors, it's a different feeling because they know they're not putting that jersey back on. But
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, they might say one thing or two like, now you got to go do this, now you got to. But most of the time, we don't talk about it too much, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When I saw Robinson lose that game, and I knew Christian wouldn't play for Robinson anymore, they have so much quality in that lineup, and to think they
Yeah.
never play together again was just heartbreaking to me. How about you? How about you, Joe? Do you hear from your friends from other schools?
Yeah, so obviously I'm around a lot more juniors at the club, so I do hear from them, but a lot of it's more banter. I mean, people after we beat
Yeah.
them, like talking after the game a little bit, I mean, how it normally is. And then a lot of the talk from like I have some private school teammates are like just lose already, come back to practice. Like we got
Yeah,
nationals coming up, and I'm like, ah. So yeah, it's all banter really. There's no hard feelings, but yeah, we talk a little bit. But again, like Lucha said, when you're at club practice, you have a game. It's it's time to work. So, yeah.
Yeah. So when Chandler played, he was on a club. He wasn't on a top club. He played for Villarreal, Villarreal in Alexandria before they were MLS Next. Good clubs. And when you're at that level, by the time you're a senior, you've played against these same club components your whole life. You're so tired of it. So all you care about is your high school because it's something a little bit different. The games actually mean a lot. So I think it all depends on what level you are. Whether or not you even care about those club games. Certainly. But guys, I wanted to end by talking about your goals for the future. Just let me, Lucho, maybe you can tell us why you chose James Madison. Great school. My daughter is just finished her freshman year there. She had a great time. It's a great school. I know your buddy Jello is going to James Madison as well.
Yeah.
But talk about James Madison. Why you chose JMU and what are your goals there?
Firstly, their coaching staff is amazing. Joe knows a big part of recruiting is, how you sense the coaching staff, your relationship with them, how they rub off on you. And I've never had a negative interaction with them. They've been super cool, supportive and everything. And they've been amazing. They've really helped me in the process and they made everything super easy for me. And I think it's a beautiful school. When I went on the visit of the campus, it looks like a Windows desktop background. Like it's
It
beautiful.
is. Yeah.
A bunch of my buddies are going there. And it isn't, I guess, too far from home, but it definitely will give a sense of college life in a different environment.
Yeah. My
So,
daughter
yeah.
missed some of the dorms are on like this hill. Like there's two sets of first year dorms.
Yeah.
And she misses the sunset. She says it was so great every day to see it. And
Yeah.
and so you're gonna have to rough it until August again. How about you, Joe? Villanova is an amazing school. As well. So why'd you choose Villanova?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple reasons. Definitely, like Lucho said, coaching staff is a huge part of it. Coach Mark Fetcher, their head coach, was an assistant coach there for around 8 or 9 years. Then he went to Drexel last season, and when the Villanova coaching spot opened up, he came back to Villanova as a head coach, just because of his passion for Villanova. He really loves the school, and he's just a great guy. I mean, him and Coach West, the assistant coach, they really made sure to accommodate for me and make everything in my process easier. And I really appreciated that. It seems like they sincerely want me there. And that's great. I mean, being a part of a first recruiting class as well, I think my goal is probably because it's his first recruiting class, for being a head
Yeah.
coach, and he sees a lot of playing time for me in the future. Villanova just came off a pretty bad year, but historically they're a good Big East program. So I think it'd be really beneficial to get playing time and start there early. And then again, like Lucho said, that with JMU, I mean, the school of Villanova is beautiful. It's in a nice area, not too far. Like it's just all around a great choice. And the balance of academics too, I really
Yeah.
really do like. So all around, just a great school.
Yeah. Joe, will you play high school soccer next year?
I will be playing high school soccer next year.
Awesome.
Happy Lucho won't be there. Maybe O2 will be, but it'll help us a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we'll miss you, Lucho. But look, look, guys. I want to thank you guys for doing this. You guys, two of my favorite players. Love watching you guys play. We're lucky to have you. We have a lot of great players that play high school, but you guys are right there on the top, and both have just tremendous seasons. I mean, I can't wait till Wednesday. I know Joe's got to play this weekend. Lucho's lucky he can kind of probably train and just get his legs back. But I'm sure it's going to be an amazing environment. I hope people that are listening, please come out and support these teams. And because I think I was talking to Titus as much as I get messy. One thing when my son stopped playing soccer, I thought I'd be done with it, but because I kept this social media stuff up, it's great because I get the inside perspective of what's going on with these teams, and I love it. I talk to Joe almost after every single game, but I just think it's going to be incredible on Wednesday, and I just hope guys come. And as I was telling Titus last week, you guys will be thinking about this rivalry 20 years, 30 years from now. You guys will still remember the Herndon-McLean rivalry. They're rivalries that I had. I was a basketball player at Robinson, and I played against some great players, and amazing college players. I was not that good of a player, but I was out there trying. But those games, they never leave you. But the Herndon-McLean rivalry is something special. It's beyond the rivalries I experience. I mean, this is something really special that you guys are very lucky. So I just hope you guys, as you always do, go out there and give it 150%. I know you will. And hopefully we'll have just a great atmosphere. And the good news is, win or lose, and I know you guys want to win, you guys are both going to be representing the area in the state tournament. So I don't know if you guys have any closing words, but I want to thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, nothing but thank you. Thank you a lot. And Joe, good luck tomorrow. I know it's a big game.
Yeah,
Just
I
ball,
appreciate
just be
that.
focused.
Hey, good luck Wednesday. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Lucho wants
Thank
you to really work hard this weekend. Work really, really hard this weekend, Joe. Really. So
National selection game is a big deal. That's every scout you could ever think of. But he's committed, so like that's a different story. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but thank you. I appreciate it.
where's the game, Joe? Where you guys playing?
We're in Richmond.
Oh, okay, you're at the River City, Riverside, River
Yeah,
City.
River City Sportsplex.
Yeah, I've been there once or twice. God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love it. So, all right, guys. Well, look, thanks again. And appreciate you doing this, and I will see you guys on Wednesday.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for doing it.
You too.